Hi, Doug Borgsdorf here. I'm the business unit director for Primex Plastics. And first, I'd like to thank Andrew and the team at AMI for adapting and adjusting to the new format for this conference. And it's too bad I'm not down there talking to everybody face to face, and I look forward to us getting back to those. Andrew reached out and asked if I'd talk about COVID-19 and the effect it had on the plastics industry. And I think for those of you who know me, I always look at it the emotional side, and there's a story to be told, and how employees respond to it. So that's a little bit what I'm going to talk about today, and I'm excited to do so. And hopefully, if anybody has any questions, you can find my email and send me an email. Before I delve into some of the topics I want to talk about, I always tell everybody the story and the failures and the mistakes that I've made, and I think those all tie into several of the last speeches I've given about what you learn from your mistakes. And rolling into the COVID disaster that our world faced, those mistakes in the past really made us a lot stronger to respond to the COVID-19 crisis. First, I'd say it was immensely nice for the plastics industry to be essential again, because we were taking quite a beating on sustainability and recycling and the waste in the oceans. But we'll get to that a little bit later in the presentation. Right now, I want to kind of just talk a little bit about the story of Primex Protect and how a small business unit at Primex Plastics responded to COVID-19. Why I'm going to tell you the story is not because we're any better than anybody else in the industry, because the plastics industry as a whole responded amazingly well and rapidly to what our nation and world needed. So this is not a story to promote what we did. It's a story of how we responded, what we adapted to, how we innovated, and what we learned from that. Life is a story. Business is a story. And as the people who've seen me speak before, I'm an emotional guy, so maybe it's probably better I'm not walking around in Florida telling the story, because maybe I'd get choked up at how well my team responded. Talking a little bit about what happened to this small business unit at Primex is we saw 85% of our sales either be canceled or placed on hold. That took that group into a little bit of a panic. How do we respond from a P&L perspective? Do we cut 66% of the workforce? Do we go to 2 days a week? Do we lay people off? None of those sat well with us as a team, and we said we need to do something quickly. Well, lo and behold, right then our local hospital called, and they needed a biomedical face shield. We were never in the face shield business in that business unit. We made boxes. Well, we got out of the box, and 72 hours later, we found a solution for the hospital, and that was the creation of Primex Protect. Even though the P&L was still hovering over our head, we quickly adapted. One of our hourly employees came to me and said, "What else can we do to help everyone? We need to help." So we went back into our little design center, and there's a great example of what it looked like. 3 in the morning, we were there using the old-fashioned flip charts, and that's how we adapted back. We went back to the roots of building a business from scratch. Last year, I said people were the hardest thing to manage. They became the easiest part, and I think that says a lot about the mistakes I've made as a leader in the past, what I'd learned, and how we adapted over the years at creating new development plans for our employees. We quickly went from 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 10 to 12-hour shifts. Our employees were asking to stay longer. We went into production of making 3,000 face shields a day, and shortly thereafter, 300,000 a day. We put several other local businesses that had laid off their employees back to work. Took an entire production facility that made corrugated returnable packaging, and everybody worked hand in hand to putting them all 6 feet apart and going into medical face shields, desktop dividers, golf cart dividers. It's an amazing story, because then we saw our sales grew last year 50% over the previous year, and we kept our margins exactly where they were always supposed to be to run a business. We didn't take it, although it's opportunistic, we did it to survive, and we did it to protect, and I think that's a great story. And our new mode was doing things for the right reasons at the right time. Why I'm telling you that story is because we had to adjust a lot of what we do every day. So I've kind of put a slide together here that talks about some of the key changes or questions for, I think, any business coming out of COVID. We're looking at all of our SWOTs for each market segment. How are we going to sell in the new world? Are we going to be more virtual? Do we need more video? How do we connect with the sellers and purchasers that are now working remotely? Does our Primex Protect brand have viability long term? We quickly got FDA certification for our facility, and believe that's probably something that was important, and maybe we should have done that before. We looked at our inside sales team. I will tell you that was probably the strongest group to be able to respond to what was going on. Never had taken a credit card order before, taking on 50 to 60 new customers in an hour. So we had to adapt very, very quickly. So how do we adapt moving forward? We were really looking at their development plans and the value that we place on our internal resources. Human capital, remote totality, what's that mean? Very, very focused on the mental stability of our employees who don't get to have the interaction that we used to have. I'm a passionate face-to-face individual. I know it's very, very challenging. Doing this is a challenge for me. So what are those new challenges, and how do we adjust to keep the mental fitness of our employees that don't have that interaction anymore? Is there more opportunities for co-opetition? The amazing thing when you looked at going into the materials we needed to make to protect our frontline workers, we couldn't do all of those things and actually had to engage several competitors to put together a solution for our frontline workers. That's a great story. And I think I've said that before, is just because you're competitors doesn't mean that you can't work for the greater good in the plastics industry. And I think that was exactly what we did, and the end result was something that was great for the nation and the world. So I think that's a very big key to look forward to in the future, is more co-opetition, even if that's on a sustainability front. We asked the question, were our development plans in place over the past few years beneficial to how we responded to COVID? The great answer was 100% yes. The development plans that our employees helped generate and develop really allowed us to respond much more rapidly than we would have been able to years ago. However, we know we need to adjust those development plans moving forward. So we started that process in July and August of last year. Strong focus on speed, agility, sourcing, mental fitness, capacity, and having all of those incorporated into our 2021 development plans. So that's a very strong focus for us, is to continue to adapt how we respond in the future. And that's what we're doing there. My big challenge for us moving forward is will the world forget how the plastics industry responded to COVID-19? I will tell you, on a personal front, although COVID-19 was a tragic event for the world, it was probably one of the most enlightening and energetic times as a leader that I've ever had. To have employees respond the way they did, working 10, 12-hour days, 7 days a week. The world needs to know that plastics is not a polluter. Plastics is a saver. And now more than ever, as we come out of that, I hope that the world doesn't forget how we responded to this horrific time in our country and our world. 1 million plus employees responded in the plastics industry to help. Some of it, yes, was opportunistic, but at the end of the day, we responded as an industry to do things for the right reasons at the right time. Now we need to roll out of that and not forget what we've done, market what we have done, and understand that the sustainability portion of our business will always be important. Continuing to find recycled carriers for colorants and additives, driving innovation to reduce weight. Plastics has always been a leader in that side of things. The cultural shift has already started. The plastics industry is going back to we're a huge polluter. That's a cultural issue. That's not a plastics issue. So we need to continue to push that market and lead the charge on plastics. It makes the world safer, better, stronger. So I think as we move forward and come out of this COVID crisis, which hopefully we'll get back to some normalcy here in the near future, and our kids will get back to school full time. We'll protect our teachers and our first responders, but we need to continue to drive every business to continue to promote what we've done, ride the energy of the expertise of our employees and how they responded. It's not about the president of the company, it's about the hourly worker who put the hours in to protect their neighbor. We need to promote that story as we continue to drive sustainability in the industry. Those are the big things that came out of the COVID-19 on our end. I'm excited about the future. I'm not so excited about the current challenges we face in the resin market, but there's a perfect example. Plastics has always been challenged. Business has always been challenged. And I challenge everybody who's listening to this as you go back and sit with your hourly employees and sit with your key members in your team. What did they learn? What did they learn during this crisis that we can adapt and innovate into our strategic plans for the business growth? Because I will tell you what, Primex would not have been able to respond the way they did if it wasn't for the development of our hourly employees, because those were our frontline essential workers. So from where I sit, I thank everybody in the plastics industry for how they responded. I thank everybody at Primex for how they responded. And I thank my hourly employees for energizing me to continue to drive forward in how we develop our business. I look forward to seeing everybody soon, and thank you very much.